Hi, this is Jody from MCPactions.com. Today I'm going to be showing you how to use the MCP Fusion set. This MCP Fusion Photoshop action set combines the most versatile and user-friendly workflow actions with beautiful color and black and white variations to bring you a set with infinite possibilities. To use this set, you're going to go ahead and load your actions into Photoshop. Once they are in Photoshop, you will go ahead and expand the MCP Fusion set. From here you will see that there are color actions, which are all under the category Color Fusion Actions. Black and white actions, which are all under the category Black and White Fusion Actions. And then there are three sets of enhancers: the exposure enhancers, the special effects enhancers, and lastly the contrast and sharpen enhancers. Under each of these categories reside the actions. And we're going to go ahead today and I'm going to start showing you by working on the color actions. Included in every color action is one-click color. You may also run it on its own. So you can start by running one-click color and just edit and tweak for a nice color pop workflow. Or if you desire something with a little bit more edge, you can go ahead and run any of these other actions in the set from Slumber Party all the way down through Ellie's Field of Dreams. The last action in the color action set is Color Fusion Mix and Match. Color Fusion Mix and Match will actually allow you to mix any of the actions listed above. So that will give you even more possibilities. We're going to go ahead today and start with this picture of this girl on the railroad tracks. And for this picture, I'm going to go ahead and run Crave. So you'll just select the action by highlighting it there and click the play button. And it'll take just a second to run, and once it's done running, you'll have what could be a completed image. But you're welcome, of course, to adjust from here. All of the actions are completely adjustable. You may adjust the opacity of one-click color or of any of the other color actions that you run, such as Crave. You can also open the folder to adjust it. So you can actually come in here and open up the folder and decrease or increase the opacity of any of the layers or use the masks that correspond with them. Typically, for most pictures, you won't have to do a whole lot of that. And on this picture, I'm not going to do anything with that. And I'm also going to leave Crave alone as well. But if you wanted to, you could increase the opacity to get an even more rich look, or decrease the opacity if it's a little too intense. The default opacity for the actions, the different color actions, is 50%, and one-click color by default is always at 75%. But again, these can be adjusted to taste. From here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to scroll down to the different enhancer actions, and we're going to go to the special effects. If you want to add some haze to your image, you can try something like the frosting action, and you'll see that just gives it a little bit hazier of a look. You can also, after you run an action, if you're not happy with it, you can just turn it off. Then the next thing that we're going to go ahead and try is we're going to go ahead and use enclosed, which is a light vignette. And it has a message. Some of the enhancer actions will have a message that pops up telling you what to do. And you'll just go ahead and read these and follow the directions if needed. Next, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run Dodgeball, which is in the exposure enhancers. And for this, I just want to lighten up her eyes a little. The eye socket area looks a little dark. You'll see it tells me to use a 20 to 35% opacity brush. To adjust the brush opacity, I'm going to go to the top toolbar here, and you'll see it says opacity 30%. I'm going to leave it at 30, but usually the default starting out is at 100, so you'll want to actually come in here and take down your opacity. You don't probably want to start with 100% brush. And I'm going to come in here once and click on the eye socket area for each eye. Then I'm going to make my brush a little smaller by using the left and right bracket keys. Left bracket key makes your brush smaller, right makes it bigger, and I'm going to click once again on the eyes, just to lighten up the eye socket area a little bit and the eyes. There's before the eye socket situation with Dodgeball, and there's after. So it just gave a little light in the eyes. And lastly, I'm going to show you what different directions does in the contrast area. And you'll see that just gives some extra contrast and pop. Now I'm going to give you a before and after view by doing a snapshot in the history palette. And here is our before, using Crave and those few extra toppings, although I did turn frosting off. And here is after. Now again, if I wanted to see what the haze looked like on it, I could just turn the eyeball back on. And you've got a completed picture. Next, we're going to go to another picture. And this picture right here is a baby. And we're going to go ahead on this one and we're going to run Urban Revival. So I come back into my Actions palette and we're going to click on Urban Revival so it's highlighted and then click the play button. And once it's done running, we're going to go ahead and we're going to open up One Click. I notice on here her eyes are a little bit darker than they appear in real life. So I'm going to open up One Click and we're going to go ahead and we're going to work with the exposure layer. So we're going to work on fixing some underexposure by increasing the opacity just a little bit. Now, if we didn't like how it affected the rest of the picture when we increased it, which I really don't, I can invert my mask. The shortcut for inverting a mask is just Control-I on a PC or Command-I on a Mac. And once I'm done with that, again, I take my brush and I'm going to use a low opacity brush again. And using the right bracket key, I increase the size. And I'm going to click a couple times on the eye with a white brush. And you'll see I've lightened up the eye socket area a little bit. And again, I'm not going to really adjust anything else in there, but I could if I needed to. And the Urban Revival layer is at 50. And I'm going to actually bring that up by hovering on the word opacity, left clicking and dragging. You can also hover on the arrow and bring it down. And I'm going to bring this up and there's about 73%. Let's go ahead and do a snapshot to take a look. Here's our before and here's our after. If ever the color shift that happens, you don't like what it does in, for example, the hairline, you can actually open up, that will be the color action that runs, not One Click Color, the actual named color action, and look for layers that do twist the color or manipulate color. They'll be labeled pretty well. So you'll see Color Twist here. And we're going to go ahead with Color Twist. We're going to take a black brush because it's a white mask and we're going to hide the effect. And we're not going to hide a lot of it. We're just going to come over here with a low opacity brush and there's 30% and I'm going to just rub a second time on the hair so that took off about 60% of the change. And you can see now that that light blue that was in her hairline is gone and yet the rest of the image looks beautiful. Let's move on now. And we're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you a black and white action. So this is a couple standing in a doorway. And for this one, I could use any of these actions, One Click, Timeless, any of these other actions as well. But I'm going to go ahead and use an action called Black and White Fusion Mix and Match. And this is also, I'm going to show you next, Color Fusion. But we're going to go ahead first and run this. And it will actually run all of the black and white actions instead of having to run one at a time. This is a very, very fun way if you're not sure which action you want to use on something to go ahead and be able to tell. So it starts out and it has a message that pops up after it runs and it tells you that you can go ahead and you can play around with the different layers. Highlight Helper is on by default. That helps so that you don't blow out your highlights. You're welcome to turn it off if you don't feel that they did get blown out and you feel like it's muddying your images. You can turn that off or you can turn it on and adjust the opacity to taste. With the One Click Black and White, you'll see it's the very similar action to color, except there's a One Click black and white layer inside, and that will make sure that you retain the properties of black and white. All of these layers also, the Reminisce, Shades of Gray, Cozy, Sunkissed, Peaceful, and Timeless, are all at 50% starting out. So you'll see they're at 50%. And so when we combine them, we'll get different effects. But if we were to get rid of One Click Color, as we could with the color actions, if we turn the whole thing off, it will make your image color starting out, because if you only have one layer on at 50%, you're only letting 50% of the color through. That is an excellent way to get a vintage action. So if I turn One Click Color off, you will see now that if I only have one of these layers on, we can actually get a vintage look. But I'm going to go ahead for now and show you the black and whites. So I've got the One Click Black and White on, and I've got Reminisce on. And Reminisce is actually a black and white film action. I worked very hard with a person who actually shot film for 25 years to come up with this action. And we worked together trying to imitate the look of film. So by default, you should be getting close. You're welcome to open up the Reminisce folder. And in it, you'll see there's a grain layer if you want it on or off, depending if you want it to look like it was at a higher ISO or not. And also you'll see some other layers that lower or increase contrast, light and shadows and such. So you have full flexibility within this action. Another thing you can do is, of course, combine it. So you could increase the opacity to 100% for a pure film look, or decrease it a bit and combine it with some other things. For example, here's Sunkiss. So it's going to give still a look of film with a little bit of a tint. Now, if we don't want Reminisce on at all, I can turn that off. And now I've just got Sunkissed, and that's again at 50%. If I want more of the look, I can drop down with this arrow or hover over opacity to change the look. So that's at 64%. I'll show you the rest of the black and whites real quick. There's shades of gray, which actually purposely adds some gray to the white areas. It's great if you have a lot of blown out areas, especially to kind of cover that up, or if you just want a more muted look. Then we've got Cozy, which has a rich brown tint, like a brownish red tint, and I'll increase it to 100% so you can really get the look of that. Now I'm going to turn that one off and show you Sunkiss, which I showed you before. And next we have Peaceful, which is definitely a little bit more mild than Sunkissed. And then we have Timeless, which is a very traditional, very rich, contrasty black and white. And lastly, we've got just the one-click black and white, which is the base action for these other actions. Okay, and again, you can also, of course, add any other helper actions in from the enhancer section. But for now, we're going to skip over that, and we're going to go to our last photo here. And this photo of a bride and groom in a field is very fun to play with. I'm going to use Color Fusion Mix and Match on this. And if you want to learn how to batch process with Color Fusion Mix and Match or other actions in this set, you'll want to watch the second video tutorial in my video set. That will teach you how to batch process. In the meantime, I've run Color Fusion Mix and Match, and you will see, I'm going to actually make this box a little bit bigger so you can see all the layers. And you can see all the layers that it created now. So we've got a lot of choices. So far, it's only one-click color that's on and off. So there's the original, and there's with one-click color. We're going to go ahead and have some fun with this one. I'm going to show you lots of different actions and what they would do. And keep in mind they are at 50%, but we could increase or decrease them. So there's Ellie's Field of Dreams. There's Desire. There's Charming, which to me looks a little intense if I was to use that, so I would bring that one down a bit. There's Retro Surprise. There's Fantasy. And Vanilla Cream, which I love on this picture. Here's Creamsicle, which I also love on this picture. And next is Peachy. You can see how that just brings out the warmth in the skin tones. Passion, next. And after Passion, we're going to go ahead and run Rustic, which I love how this one brings out the trees, the color in the trees in the background. Next is Crave, which is beautiful on this image. Urban Revival, which I also like. This is one of those images. Not every image will look good with every action, but I have to say this particular image works well with most of them. Here's Beach House. Here's Heartfelt, and it depends if you want light and airy, if you want more contrast. There's Jenna's Sweet Shop, which I also love on this for a very airy look. Here's Lemonade Stand, which is beautiful, although probably a little bit strong in this image. So again, I might come down a little bit. There's Summer Camp. Here's Sentimental. And Slumber Party. So you can see we have such a wide array of looks that we can get from using this set. And it's really fun to play with. You can also do something like this. We could come in here and we can stack actions. So we could do Vanilla Cream and Creamsicle, which is very light and airy, or Vanilla Cream and maybe something more intense like Passion, or Rustic, which I love. Actually, that look is my favorite, I think, right there. Vanilla Cream mixed with Rustic, so you bring out those reds in the trees, and then you've got a nice soft look on them. And again, if it's a little too strong, you can always decrease opacities to taste. Now let's go ahead and let's play a little bit with some enhancers here. So we're going to scroll down here, and let me show you first of all if we were to use Surrounded, which is a very heavy vignette. It's going to darken the edges dramatically, and you can see that changes the whole look of the picture. Even if we bring down the opacity, you can see how it really brought out the reds in the picture and the darker yellows in the hay in the field that they're in and that type of thing. Okay, so I'm going to leave that on for now. And I'm also going to run dodgeball and show you the same thing I did with that baby earlier, which is her eye sockets are a little bit dark. So I'm going to come in here on her eye socket and I'm just going to click and lighten up her eyes and maybe once on his eyes. That's a fun trick if you've got darker eye socket or eye areas where they get dark from having the extra contrast. Then we're going to go ahead and we are going to work on sun flare. Now the sun flare actions are quite fun. You want to use them oftentimes at a low opacity just to have a little bit of sunlight coming through. I'm going to use sun flare right. You'll see it says this action works best on outdoor photos where lens flare may naturally occur. If you want sun flare on a black and white image, you're going to want to move the sun flare layer down below the black and white, but this is a color image, so we don't need to worry about that. Now you'll see it tells you to open up the folder and pick either sun flare 1 or 2. Okay, you'll see by default it's on sun flare 2, but if we want, we can switch it to sun flare 1. Okay, so you'll see this is going to come in the right corner. I have other ones that will come in the left, center, or where you can customize it. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead with sun flare 2. So we're going to turn that on. I'm going to close the folder and increase the opacity so you can really see the actual sun flare. And you can see the spots of sun flare coming down all the way through here. If you don't want to see the whole thing or you want it less intense, you can decrease the opacity. It will vary. What it looks like will vary based on your image and how light it is. The lighter it is, the harder the time seeing it. The darker it is, the more visible it will be. Okay, so this is a fairly light picture, but you can see how it looks like sun is coming right through, and we can see the flare. Let's say there's a spot of flare you don't like I see this green dot right on his shirt right here. If we don't like that, we can take a black brush and we can set our brush opacity to 100% and we can just get rid of that spot of flare. If you only want the light coming through the corner, you could even erase the other flares, again, by using a black brush. The other thing you can do with the sun flare actions is you can open it up and change the tone that hits on the white areas. So you can actually double click on the sunshine tone and you can change it slightly. It'll be very, very subtle, but if you want to have it be a little bit more golden, like an orange color, you can come in here and change that and you'll see it very slightly changes the look. Very subtle. Okay, that is the action set, MCP Fusion. So again, the set is very, very flexible. Tons of different looks and tons of different actions to get just the look that you're wanting. So thank you so much for listening to my tutorial. This is Jody from MCPactions.com.